To order. This is the Gateway Board of School Directors regular board meeting Tuesday, March 15, 2022. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with justice for all. Okay. All righty. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Bova.
Here.
Mrs. Ritchie.
Here.
Mrs. Delaney.
Here.
Mrs. McBride.
I got a question. Coach Al, I like jokingly took away the pizza from me. So you want to go ahead?
Ms. Mungo.
Here.
Mr. Ritter.
Mr. Ritter.
Dr.
John is here. John's definitely here.
Dr. Singh.
Here.
Mrs. Warning. Mrs. Warning.
Val, are you still with us?
I think she's on mute.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Everybody else acknowledges? Yeah, I'll give
Thank you. Just to be clear, for visitors who aren't usually here, this doesn't usually work like this. We've got a couple people remote and they are still trying to participate. So I ask for everyone's patience. Also, I'd like to thank you for your patience. We're usually very punctual, but we had a personnel matter that simply could not be done any more quickly. So we are going to start with our guest speakers. Ms. Vonda Thomas from Gwen's Girls. Is Vonda here? Okay, then let's go to Grace Trainee, correct?
Yep.
Grace, you want to step up to that microphone and tell us who you are and what you're doing, and
Sure.
take all the time you need.
Thanks. My name is Grace Trainee. I work on the child nutrition team at the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. I'm here today to recognize the Gateway Food Service staff with the Child Hunger Hero Award. Just a few moments that I was speaking to Martin before this meeting started. It's just reinforcing how dedicated the staff has been the last 2 years. You know, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary, if you want to think about it like that, of COVID and all the things that the staff has been dealing with. You know, changes to regulations, never-ending challenges, staffing, food shortage, supplies. It's just inspiring, really. And I wanted to take this time to recognize them with the Child Hunger Hero Award. So a little bit of background on what this program is. The Child Hunger Hero Award recognizes school districts and community meal sponsors making outstanding contributions to food security for kids within the food bank's 11-county service area. Partners were evaluated on participation in programs that fight childhood food security, including school meals, summer food, after-school meals, weekend backpacks, and school pantry programs. This award recognizes Gateway's efforts from the 2020-2021 school year and summer. In total, 31 school districts and 12 community sponsors applied for this award, with 7 earning gold awards, 18 earning silver awards, and 15 earning bronze awards. I'm pleased to present Gateway School District with a silver award for Child Hunger Hero. And would like to applaud Mr. Lorenzo and all of his staff for their tireless efforts the last 2 years to make sure that all students in the district and in the community have had access to nutritious foods year-round. As you may know, school meals are important for ensuring that kids have enough to eat, which allows them to focus on learning and live to their fullest potential. Research shows that starting the school day eating breakfast can lead to higher test scores, calmer classrooms, fewer trips to the nurse, and better attendance. Gateway offers grab-and-go breakfast in all buildings and a second chance breakfast in their high school. These efforts go a long way to ensuring that all students are starting their days with a healthy meal and a full stomach. When school is out, such as after school, during the summer, on the weekends, there's still a need for meals, and the staff has really stepped up the last 2 years, all the time really, to make sure that need is met. Excuse me. The after-school snack program, the summer food service program, and the backpack program all help to meet that need. Gateway offers all 3 options to their students. Gateway is also one of only a handful of districts in Allegheny County that offers summer meals not only at their district buildings, but also in the community, ensuring easy access for all students. Gateway's dedication to providing meals in and out of school time is an essential asset to the community and not one that I take lightly and not one that the community should take lightly. There's nearly 100,000 children in the greater Pittsburgh area that go to bed wondering where their next meal will come from, and 1 in 5 students and children in southwestern PA struggle with food insecurity. In 2021, over 4 million summer meals were served throughout our 11 county service area, and Gateway staff alone served over 75,000 of those meals, which is very impressive. So, just wanted to take the time to say thank you to all the staff that's here. It was great to meet some of you, chat with Martin, just learn a little bit more, and really just recognize everything that's been going on the last 2 years. And, you know, food service didn't start 2 years ago, and it won't end when COVID is over. And it's just important to recognize the efforts of the staff, the food service director, and everyone. Sure. Yep. Can the food service stand? Would the food service please stand?
Everybody from food service, stand up, please.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace, and thanks to the amazing team that we have here. It all starts and ends with them. Without their devotion and commitment, Grace wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be receiving this award. And my first thoughts with the certificate and this cool little award is we're going to treat it like the Stanley Cup, and we're going to pass it around to all the schools to enjoy it a little bit, to get the proper recognition for you all. It's definitely not going to live in my office. So thank you all very, very much. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to recognize this very hardworking and dedicated bunch. Thank you. One last thing, each individual here will also receive a mug, a pin, and a certificate of their own. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, okay, here's the certificate. I apologize and stand corrected. So they'll get a pin and a mug, and I'm going to distribute those to everybody through our distribution channels the rest of the week, okay? So keep your eyes open for those, and thank you all again once again.
So in lieu of the certificates, Dr. Short's going to come down and sing the Lunch Lady song to you guys tomorrow.
Paid vacation to Aruba.
Can I get the sign up? You've given me the attendance. No one signed up this week.
Bonnie, I'll see you at 6 a.m. tomorrow.
No, 5:30. 5:30.
I'm not the board secretary.
You were close to it. Come on.
Yeah, that's kind of why I made some first thing this morning to remind
Hey, remember when Leslie Sunshine?
It's on YouTube, and then my daughter cut it and put it in her TikTok.
Nice. All right, we're going to move on to comments from residents on agenda items. We've got 3 folks who have signed up. We're going to start with Cheryl Boys.
Did you get Miss? Mr. Bova, did you do it? Sure. Ray first.
Good evening, Cheryl Boyceman Revel. We tried to do this in 5 minutes because I could spend 5 hours. The equity position. I don't know how many of you followed the hearings when we were converting over to the PSSA and the assessment system, but I'm going to tell you some of the fears that happen with that system. Gateway, actually, Dr. Domensik and Tim Varner from Gateway testified against it. And I don't remember, because I had all of the hearing information where I worked. I'm retired, so I don't have access to it now. But one of the fears was that we were going to look at kids as part of like a conglomeration of kids. Instead of looking at them as individual learners and human beings and coming up with Are they making a year's worth of individual academic progress? That we were going to look at them as statistical group information based on a lot of other kind of factors. I have a problem with that because kids should be looked at for who they are as an individual. And I think we need to do that. And one of the things I think we should have a conversation with, instead of the equity, because we have a very capable gentleman here who was gracious enough to talk to me about this, and as was Dr. Short. I think they have a handle on that, but here's what I think we need to do. And I never make a suggestion unless I clearly understand what I'm talking about. One of the things that we need to do in Gateway, where we lose the kid, is the middle school. Now, such as so happens, my daughter's 5th grade teacher is here tonight. Haven't seen him in a million years. Glad to see him. It's a hard job. It's a hard job because they're going through all kinds of transitional things in the middle school. And if you look at it statistically, if that's going to be your decision, then the middle school is a problem because that's where we start losing them, really. Yes, learning is a building foundational thing. Elementary is important because that builds on to the next level. But it's statistically, that middle school is where we need to focus more effort. We need to really look at this because I was on the middle school committee when we transferred from middle school from the junior high school. And I got on the committee because I detested 7th grade. I can't say this loud enough. I detested 7th grade. It's a horrible transition. Good students can still hate middle school. You have an opportunity to do some corrections there. And this dean of students I researched, that's where this conversation should be. We need someone in the building, direct contact with the kid, not another administrator looking statistical information, though that's important, but you need somebody in that building. Not only did I sit on the middle school committee, when Cleveland Stewart was the principal in that building, I was the president of the PTO. He called me in his office multiple times and said, let's talk about how we can work together to make this transition a good one for the kids, because parents need to be part of this process. We created a parent volunteer program. That's an internal thing in the building. We were in the newspaper for the work we were doing. Tried to duplicate it at the other middle school, wasn't as successful. But that's an internal thing. We can work together on that. We need to do this in those buildings with people like the dean of students so the kids can get the individual attention that they need. Which I'm very disappointed that this Gwen's Girl mentoring person didn't show up, because my next thing, and I am adamant about this, and I'm saying this here tonight, if my church in Penn Hills can work on a mentoring program for the girls at Penn Hills High School, there is absolutely no reason why faith-based organizations in this district cannot do the same thing. Too many of these kids don't have any person behind them saying, guess what, you can do this. Because the kids I know that graduated from here, no matter the race, no matter the gender, the ones that were successful had somebody who patted them on the back and said, you can do it. And some of these kids don't have it. They don't have it. So all of the organizations who come here and tell the school what to do, I have a challenge for you. I will show up at your meetings and I will help you create a mentoring program in Gateway. And I will get the information from the organization in Penn Hills who works in conjunction. It's a community-based thing. It's not the school district. And they work in conjunction with the school district, which I think is critical for these kids. Because here's a little, Jack, you were saying about how much research last week. I wasn't here, but I listened to you.
Bless you.
2 million minutes. That's the time they get in high school to the time they graduate. And this is about behavior and attitude. And attitude about success is everything. I think they all need a sales class. Dale Carnegie, when you have nothing to lose by trying, then by all means try. Kids need that kind of positive reinforcement. I think we need this. And one last thing. For some unknown reason, don't ask me why, last week I got 4 phone calls, 2 from somebody I've known for years before I retired, and 2 other people who were referred to me. And this is what they all wanted. They aren't happy with school boards. They feel that you need more training. Now, some of you have been on here for a long time and you learned the hard way. New coming in, you have to take what, 5-6 hours of training? That isn't enough. They're talking about what a lot of these people in some of these counties want to see. They want to see you having an advisory committee. There's no way everybody here could possibly understand everything you need to know from all the perspectives. And listening to this, we need to have an advisory committee. Plus, the roundtable, which is completely different. That's a parental thing. That needs to be reinstated. I am here to help. I never make suggestions unless I'm willing to follow through. So if you want my help, you know how to get a hold of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boyes. By the way, Bonnie, I know we have a timer. Do you usually ring a gong or something? You want me to do that?
I have it here. It was just about to go off. She had 30 seconds.
Oh, get back here, Ms. Boyes.
Oh, I have 30 seconds.
No, it's over now. All right, thank you very much. That was wonderful. Yeah, you can, exactly. Yeah, brilliant. I like that. Next, we have Rabbi Barbara Simons, also on equities. That seemed like a lot of fun. Thank you, fellas.
Good evening. I'll be short. You can have the rest of my minutes for the next meeting also if you want. I want to just add my thanks to Mr. Lorenzo and the staff. It's remarkable what work they do, and so early in the morning too. So it is remarkable and all year round. I wanted to address the agenda item that's coming up in terms of the vote about the timing for the equity director. I have concerns about the reputation of Gateway in that if you all passed something that it should be a timely accomplishment. But more than that, it's not just about, you know, how we appear, it's what we actually do. And I'm hoping that that resolution will pass today, but I also hope that at every upcoming meeting, we can hear what we're up to in terms of achieving that goal, because the goal is obviously not only for our kids, it strengthens our entire community. And I'm so pleased that you passed it. Hopefully we will actually get someone into that chair. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we have Ray Firth, also on equities.
Good evening. Ray Firth from Garden City, worked for the Office of Child Development in Pitt before retiring many years ago. And I'm here in support of the resolution for a full-time equity director soon. First, I'd like to address the hiring discussion from last week, specifically the concern expressed by some members of the board and staff that too few people, talented people, may have applied for the position of equity director, and that people within the district who had complaints about the equity program failed to come forward publicly to express their concern for the implementation. And I'd ask you to consider the environment of the past year. At least one board member has strongly and publicly criticized teachers who came forward with opinions about equity and the need for a director. A board member in local church explained to parents why they should be opposed to the equity director and spent many hours explaining to you their rationale. And some board members indicated that the superintendent did not want to have an equity director hired. So I don't think it's surprising that following the disagreements this past year, that Gateway employees might not want to come forward to be critical of a senior administrator and the program that they were operating. Nor am I surprised that potential applicants with talent expected of an equity director would not see Gateway as an attractive opportunity with the hostility that has been expressed in the past year over this issue. Regarding hiring the most qualified person, certainly that is the law in terms of what you have to do. But human resource people, our conversation was all about we can't do something because, as opposed to what are the opportunities that human resource people do and implement to increase diversity in organizations, broadening the recruitment effort, Mrs. Delaney mentioned that part. Using the interview committee with a diverse number of people who are on the interview committee, thinking of the questions, asking the questions, and evaluating. So there are ways to address that and stay within the law if we look about how to do it, not why we can't do it. Mr. Elms addressed a letter to you just before the board meeting, making a few points that I would like to support. He and I were disappointed last week, or at the last meeting, to see the present equity director appear to get angry when some non-white people questioned the progress in achieving the achievement gap. He and Mr. Elms and I share the opinion that a person holding that position must be prepared to calmly face hard questions. And equity statements need to be supported by presentation of data. I missed the presentation prior month, so I apologize if I missed stuff that I'm being critical of. But when we say we're making progress, or to say that teachers would be insulted if the district made an effort to hire more diverse teachers, and that students' opinions should be sought, those comments were made, and I'd suggest that a number of teachers in the district would love to see more diverse teachers, because the literature on diversity in the classroom and the progress that students make is very clear. So it's for
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
She's still here. I'd suggest that that be done. There is an equity policy that the board has from 2020. And in the past year, I haven't heard much of that except to say, and Gateway has a great equity policy. When I look at some of the issues that came up this past year, whether it be achievement gap, or the discipline issues from last week, or the experience of teachers, or the diversity in our classrooms, the debates this past year would have been so much better if you had that foundation. In almost a year of debates, nobody said until Cheryl came forward, what's the data? That wasn't part of the discussion during that whole last year, which had been so contentious. There was no reference at all. Now, as Mr. Elms points out, in that equity policy is a requirement for an annual report. I've asked for that annual report and was told there hasn't been any. But that equity report.
You gotta wind us down, Mr. Firth.
Winding down.
Thank you.
Can I get her 30 seconds? No.
No.
That equity report includes review of achievement, discipline data, as Mrs. Delaney asked for, but that too got a pushback. Results from annual teaching and learning environment. That would speak to what we see our teachers want on diversity or not, and diversity within the organization. So whether or not you continue with the current model, move to a different model, I'd ask you to revisit that equity policy. And as Rabbi said, work with it. That should be coming up at a meeting. How are we doing on any of these dynamics? Thank you. Apologies for taking.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're gonna move on to section A. Jack, do I miss somebody? I believe you can. Yes, ma'am.
Rose Reed, Monroeville. Let's talk about hostility. I wasn't here, but I watched the meeting last week, and I watched it over and over and over, and my heart was beating. I was appalled at the disparaging and the demeaning of Dr. Chafee. I resent it, okay? I resent it highly. He had a right to be upset, and he has a right to speak up, okay? When I heard some of the things coming out of the mouths of people at that meeting, I wanted to vomit, okay? Please don't say this is, I mean, I want to tell you a little story. I grew up in Brushton and Homewood, okay? And I called up this talk show, this liberal white talk show host one morning because they kept talking about racism. I called up and I said, I want to tell you something. I was raised in Brushton and Homewood, and I was held up against a car with a black girl smacking me across my face. Then we had people standing on the corner waiting for streetcars to get down to Arsenal Vocational who were intimidated and harassed by black girls. And I says, you never hear about that stuff. You know what he said to me? Why are you bringing that up now? So we hang up. You know what he said? She's probably a nice lady, but she sounded racist. Well, isn't that rich? It's all one-sided, okay? There's too much race baiting in this school district. Stop talking about diversity and color and talk about qualifications. Don't say it's not about black. Have you watched these meetings that were in the auditorium? Have you heard the race baiting that was coming out of mouths? It is about black. Don't deny it. People heard it. You can go back and listen to it, okay? I am sick. I am sick of all this race baiting. I am against this equity, diversity, inclusive. It is a nation, across the nation movement. It is Marxist. It is communist. And you know who's in charge of it, and you know who uses people? The white elitists. They use people for power, and they get the moolah, okay? Don't have people use you, okay? I feel sorry for these kids in school. Don't make them victims. Don't try and put things into their minds. Stop it. Stop putting things in their minds.
Time's up, I'm sorry.
My time's up?
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I just stepped on. You know, there's a little ding that goes off 30 seconds, and then she sends me something that says time's up. Thank you. All right, anyone else? Now we're going to move on to section A, minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll read it. Resolved that the Gateway School Board of Directors approves the minutes of the following previously held meetings: study session meeting February 8th, 2022, Buildings and Ground Committee meeting February 15th, 2022, and regular board meeting February 15th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Seconded. John seconds.
What was that? Mr. Williams? Mr. Williams made the motion. Ms. Mungo seconded. Any questions on the motion? Nope. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? This is ridiculous.
Section B, financial reports, Mr. Schott.
Thank you. Section B, resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approves sections B1 list of bills, B2 financial reports, and B3 budget transfers as listed in section B at the Tuesday, March 15th, 2022 regular board meeting. Please note that an additional section B1 list of bills for the month of March 2022 and the section B2 financial statements for the month of February 2022 were added after a study session meeting.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Ms. Cerucci, seconded by Mr. Williams. Do we have any questions on section B? Roll call, please. Bonnie.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Ms. Mungo.
Aye.
Ritter.
John says aye.
Dr. Singh.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Vogel.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Section D, personnel agenda, Mrs. Crump.
Thank you, Dr. Short. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel items 1 through 7 as listed in section D for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, March 15th. Under section 1, we have 4 resignations listed, 1 additional since the last study section. Under 2, leave of absence, we have a total of 7. We did add 1 additional for G. Under transfers, we have 5 listed, 3 which are new. Under section 4, we have 2 employments, Erica Hofter as a part-time lunchroom aide and Sarah Keelar as the assistant principal at Gateway High School. A, kindergarten tutoring, 1 name, supplemental contracts as listed. Under volunteers, we have 10, and we have an additional motion. Whoops, my computer just. An additional motion to dismiss employee 2937, whereas the board reviews the statement of charges against employee 2937 and adopted a resolution authorizing the issuance of a statement of charges, scheduled a board hearing, and suspended employee 2937 without pay pending termination proceedings. Now therefore be it resolved, and it's hereby resolved as follows. The board hereby adopts the statement of charges against employee 2937 and the recommendation for dismissal as presented by the administration. Employee 2937 is hereby dismissed as an employee of the Gateway School District effective March 15th, 2022, pursuant to Article 11 of the Public School Code of 1949 as amended. Resolved this 15th day of March 2022.
So moved.
Second. That was moved by Mr. Williams and seconded by Ms. Mungo. Do we have any questions on any of those? No questions. Bonnie, roll call, please.
Mrs. Delaney,
Aye.
McBride,
Aye.
Ms. Mungo,
Aye.
Mr. Ritter. Mr. Ritter,
What does John say? John, you still there?
John says aye.
Dr.
Aye.
Singh,
John says aye.
Mrs. Warning,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Boba,
Aye.
Rucci.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you. We'd like to welcome Melissa Cheslock, who will be our new supervisor of special education in June, and also welcome Sarah Keelar to the high school.
Let's go to Mr.
Bonnie, I think you skipped Dr. Singh.
I'm sorry, I did think I heard him. Dr. Singh?
Aye.
Okay, very good, thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Crump, do that last thing again.
I just wanted to welcome Sarah Keelar to the district. She'll be the new assistant principal at the high school, and also to congratulate Ms. Melissa Cheslock, who's the assistant middle school principal, who will be moving into the special ed, supervisor of special ed position.
Thank you, ma'am.
Section E, conferences, Dr. Chapin.
Thanks, Dr. Short. For approval tonight, you have a total of 5 conferences, 2 for the ACA convention, 1 for the PAFPC annual conference, 1 for the PD Data Summit, and 1 for the Keystone State Scholars User Group Conference.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Williams, seconded by Ms. McBride. Any questions on that? Nope. Roll call, Bonnie.
Yes. Mrs. McBride, Ms. Mungo,
Aye.
Mr. Ritter,
John says aye.
Mr. Ritter?
John. I think he said aye. I'm pretty sure I heard that.
Dr. Singh,
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Aye. Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Boba,
Aye.
Mrs. Rucci,
Aye.
and Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
Section F, administrative report. We'll start with elementary education. Dr. Rossi, please.
The SAM Labs received Exhibit A. Item F2. Item number 3, approve the high school English language arts resources as listed that were placed on public display beginning January 18th, 2022. Item number 4, facility agreement with St. Bernadette's men's conference, utilize GHS auditorium.
Item number 5, approval of Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3 Program of Services budget for the 22-23 fiscal year, and that is as depicted in Exhibit C. Item number 6, approval of change orders, Gateway Middle School renovation project through construction fund for the 21-22 and 22-23 fiscal year, and the net total amount as depicted in the amount of $1,825,041.69. Item number 7, approval of child nutrition program agreement final with the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank, support services for district backpack program during the period November 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022, and that is as depicted in Exhibit D. And finally, item number 8, approval to advertise requests for proposals through the general fund for supplemental student transportation services.
So moved.
Second.
That was moved by Mr. Williams, seconded by Mrs. Cerucci. And before, any questions first? Does anyone have any questions on any of those? Many things in there, and if not, Dr. Short would like to show us something.
Thank you. One of the items on tonight's agenda reflects the flooring over at Gateway Middle School. Now, I'm sure that we have some teachers up there that may look at this and say, what is that? In fact, what we are looking at is a rendering that was completed by Axis, from Axis over here. And this would be the new entranceway into the main part of the building, which would now be as you are entering through the auditorium area, where the office would be on the left as you're walking in, the auditorium on your right-hand side. The flooring, as you see, now those are 12 by 12 square tiles. The change order that we would be voting on tonight would be the approval for the terrazzo flooring, which we've done studies on. We've compared CSE with the vinyl tile to terrazzo, but what you are looking at is the design of what the floor would look like with terrazzo. Clearly a different building from what we're used to at Gateway Middle School.
Did you guys approve?
Craig, Doug, any questions or comments? Or I think it's pretty exciting. Yes, it really does. Staff, what do you think? Thumbs up?
Hey, Bill, can I say something?
Yes.
I mean, that looks really beautiful. And I just want people to know that my main reason for voting for the terrazzo floor is the durability.
Yes.
We tried to come back with other options because it is so expensive, looked at the polished concrete, and the pictures that I saw showed cracks and wear in the polished concrete as well. And even though that floor is really beautiful, I don't want the focus to be on the beauty as much as the durability, that in 50 years, I expect it to still look like that.
The function of terrazzo.
Exactly.
Many of our buildings do have terrazzo flooring that's been in place for nearly 70 years. We did look at a number of different options, including the vinyl tile, the wearability, durability. Mrs. Cerucci also questioned if we could examine a stained concrete type of flooring. Ideally, when you have a building that's 70 years old and the subbase was already poured concrete, there are cracks, chafing, marks, it would not be conducive to a stained concrete floor. So as far as durability, longevity, a terrazzo floor will be in place for the next 70 years.
Is the warranty 70 years?
No, but we're saying 70 years.
Nice try.
It's only 50.
50.
Kidding.
The reason why I said 70, I mean, as we look out at the hallways here at Gateway High School, we're closing in on 70 years and it's the same terrazzo floor.
What is the warranty?
Warranty?
You're probably looking in the range of 15 years. The durability of the product will greatly outlast that manufacturer. One of the warranties.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Can we have a vote? Bonnie?
Yes. Ms. Mungo. Mr. Ritter. Mr. Ritter.
Shit,
Dr. Singh.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Mrs. Warning.
Val, Warning, can you hear us?
Can you hear me? Aye.
Aye, there you go.
Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
And Mrs. McBride.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you, ma'am. Yep. We're going to move on to section G, resolutions presented by board members. Resolution number 1, final approval of the following revised policy that was placed on public display beginning February 15, 2022. Policy 218.1, suspension and expulsion.
Val, can you mute?
This policy can be viewed in board docs under policies on display.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Williams, seconded by Ms. Mungo. Any questions on that policy?
No, just for the public. That was basically just a semantics word change.
You are going to have to use the mic. I can't hear you
That
well,
was,
Mary Beth.
you won't be able to hear me. That was just basically a word change to the policy, allowing us to appoint an attorney for an expulsion hearing in lieu of a board if needed, and it just gives our administration a little more flexibility, that's all.
Thank you. We have a roll call, please.
Is this for item 1 only?
Correct.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ritter.
John says aye.
Dr. Singh.
Aye.
Mrs. Warning. Aye. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
John says aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
Mrs. McBride.
Aye.
Ms. Mungo.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Ms. Delaney, would you like to read resolution number 2?
Does this work at all?
What do you want?
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of noise, background noise. Okay. Resolve that the Gateway Board of Directors approves and authorizes as appropriate the following items as listed in section G at the regular school board meeting Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director. Whereas the Gateway School District has approved the hiring of a full-time Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director, which was resolved on the 19th day of May 2021, that the Gateway Board of School Directors directed the superintendent's office to create a full-time Diversity, Equity, and inclusion position within central office and hire a qualified candidate to a 4-year contract. Whereas the search for the full-time Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Director shall continue to be filled by a qualified candidate on or before the 31st day of May 2022. Whereas the full-time Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director would be fully transparent to the Gateway Board of School Directors, Gateway staff, students, parents, and community stakeholders while addressing the increasing achievement gap, reporting regularly incremental progress with data-driven research which analyzes and utilizes student academic data and formative assessment data for the purpose of advancing educational equity within designated timeframes. Now, Therefore, let it be resolved on this 15th day of March, 2022, that the Gateway Board of School Directors will continue in their commitment to complete the hiring of a full-time diversity, equity, and inclusion director with a qualified candidate on or before the 31st day of May, 2022.
Motion to deny Mrs. Delaney's motion in its entirety, which includes any further search for a full-time equity director in lieu of allowing administration to make new recommendations on how to grow our equity team and program.
We couldn't hear all of what you were saying.
You're gonna have to do it one more time. We
I
just couldn't
said-
hear it.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in this room. We say that every single school meeting. This microphone only works on the TV.
Okay, so the TV heard it.
So the TV heard it probably loud and clear.
But, well, over here, we didn't.
The motion is to deny, not approve, Mrs. Delaney's motion in its entirety, which includes any further search for a full-time equity director in lieu of allowing administration to make new recommendations on how to grow our equity team and our equity program. Second again.
So that motion was made by Ms. Sarucci and seconded by Mr. Williams.
Let's make sure that Bonnie gets your draft so she can put it in the minutes.
Yes, please.
Just want to make sure it's clear there.
Now, do we hear questions, discussions on this motion?
Yes, can you explain a little further what exactly you mean?
Yeah, basically, it's denying your motion and it's going back to administration. I think we talked about this extensively last week and the issues with your motion as far as the deadlines and the discomfort we have with putting deadlines to hire people when we've already experienced difficulties with hiring qualified candidates. The responsibilities of the current description, the too much responsibility over our curriculum, the unaccountability. There's a lot of, I would say, flaws with the original description and the original motion as well as yours that there was a lot of discomfort with.
Explain a little further the second.
So, Mr. Solicitor, this is John Ritter. I'd like you, if you could, take a moment to explain to everyone what a motion to deny a motion structurally is and what the impact will be on the vote before us. Thank you.
John, did you pose that to me?
Yes.
Okay, well.
Yes, I asked the solicitor.
Can I see the? Okay. I don't know that it needs much more explanation. A motion to deny. There is a motion to deny Mrs. Delaney's resolution in its entirety, which includes further search for a full-time equity director, in lieu of allowing the administration to make new recommendations on how to grow our equity team and program. I think that's self-explanatory. Those are words that aren't mixed up. There's a motion and a second to deny the resolution, and literally it appears you'd be starting over again with the administration to make new recommendations on how to grow the equity team and program.
I think he wants some procedural direction. Basically, you have a motion and a second to deny, you can discuss and you can vote. If my
yeah.
motion gets
I-
approved, then we
yeah,
move
I
on,
mean,
and
after
Mrs.
discussion here-
Delaney's doesn't get voted on.
Okay, after discussion, we'll do a roll call and determine whether or not there's 5 votes to honor that motion to deny. I'm not sure that there's any other procedural problem or procedural issues with it, other than to take the vote.
I think we don't use a lot of motions to
John, does
deny.
that clarify enough for you?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It's true, and Mary Beth said it maybe better than I did. You don't often make motions to deny. Usually your motions are to approve. But a motion to deny is always available on every resolution or every motion that you come up with. A motion to approve, a motion to deny, a motion to amend. This happens to be the motion to deny that resolution. So I think that's self-explanatory. If you vote to approve this motion, her resolution fails in its entirety and you start over.
So just to be clear, this does not preclude hiring a full-time director at some point if rigorous discussion, debate, research suggests that's the best and only solution to improving our equities program. To this point, for reasons that I guess if we weren't here last year, we don't quite understand, this has basically been the only option presented. So we are simply opening, I believe Ms. Cerrucci is suggesting, we're opening the floor to expand the possibilities for making this a more effective department.
There's no question that that's a true statement. I want to add to it a little bit. You certainly can expand. You could also conclude that you want to stay with the status quo in the committee that the team has set up. And that is headed by Dr. Shaky. So that remember, we heard a lot of testimony, a lot of statements last week about the Shaky team. And that's certainly another option that you have, in addition to seeking additional individuals or teams to fill this position.
And Ms. McBride had a question.
too. The second part of that, still expand.
Sure, because I know this would cause a little bit of probably upset individuals in the audience, and I want it to be clear that this does not mean that our equity program will not continue and will not grow. It is just going to continue and to grow under the advisement of our administrators, and it's going to open up opportunity for all the things that we discussed that we still need as a school district with our limited resources, which included behavioral health, additional principals, additional security, as you all know that we highly need, additional, possibly the dean of students, a learning loss, COVID recovery, tutoring, in addition to our cyber program. We had talked about a lot of ideas last week. I don't want to spend another hour rehashing everything we went over last week, but we talked about having a position that might incorporate an assistant to Dr. Shaky along with another area of expertise, like we want to improve our cyber program. Could there be a person who could wear both hats? So I'm not saying, we're not going to move forward. That's to be clear. But the direction should really come from our administration. This motion, when it started, was always done wrong. And I have said that from the start, that it wasn't even done according to our own board policies. The original motion by a previous board member was against our policies from the start. And for the last year, as Dr. Shaky said, we have undermined the program. We have been battling over all or nothing. It's either full-time or how it is, full-time or how it is. No, this motion will say, stop. Let's look at other options. Like Mr. Bova was a great addition to this team who came in clear-headed and said, why can't we look at maybe adding to Dr. Shaky's team, maybe having someone else run the committee meetings for equity under him. There's a lot of other options, but the whole thing has been politicized and too focused, and it's just time to stop that. That's all.
I have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that we still plan to grow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. On record, I still support growing and improving our equity program at Gateway.
So are you rescinding the resolution on the 19th of May of 2021?
Yes, if you vote yes for this, that will do that, yes.
So I just have a question about resolution. How are they enforced? So if there's a majority that votes on a resolution, is it just a strong opinion, intention, that we're asking? Or if like-minded people are not on board with that, then we can rescind them?
I hear a question. I think I hear a question. This motion that's been made will defeat the resolution that Mrs. Delaney wanted to put forward. And the resolution is really short. That you will continue the commitment to complete the hiring of a full-time equity director.
So we're not rescinding the motion
I
from May
understand what she's
19th?
saying. She's asking procedurally, she's saying because the previous board approved a motion, how can we undo it?
Oh, you
is
can
what
undo
she's
it
saying.
anytime.
So, right, which is
And
what
what-
I said to you before. Anytime a school board can change direction. And I gave an example of when the board made a motion to hire an assistant superintendent and a curriculum director 6 years ago, the candidates came before us and Dr. Short came to us and said, I have a problem. We have two really good candidates. They're both experienced in curriculum and assistant superintendent. And I think we should change our job description and we should split the curriculum between the two of them. And we should hire two assistant superintendents. One will focus on K-6 and one will focus on 7-12. They will both do curriculum. They will both do assistant superintendent. So that was a perfect example of we changed our direction based on the applicants that were before us and the qualifications that they had. So yes, a school board can change its motions, can undo them, can change course at any time, provided you have 5 votes, because our school board does nothing without 5 votes. This
You
is
know,
not a single.
Robin, a more clear illustration, simply this. A board a couple of years ago voted 7-2 to buy a $300,000 scoreboard. Further discussions led to that same board reconsidering that and changing its mind, essentially, canceling its own vote, and that turned out with,
So
new
I guess,
scoreboard.
I just want clarification. You're wanting to rescind the resolution from 2000, May 19, 2021.
So let me make it clear. So the question came up was, if Susan's motion failed, that was a question. I know you didn't want me to repeat that because of the back noise. The question was, if your motion failed, then what? So my motion clarifies the then what, to try to, how do I word that? To try to
Continue
find.
to bridge the barriers to the gap and give Dr. Chicky and the team more
And the
support.
community.
And the community, right, more support and look at different avenues. So go back and see, do we need somebody more in the buildings to help with this?
So that can't be done during the search?
Well, for the last year, it is
The
not.
problem is that it seems like every couple weeks or every couple months, our school board meeting is like Groundhog Day over and over and over again. And we keep rehashing the same issue. And I'm sorry if that's an offensive analogy, but the bottom line is that what he said, we have spent so much time and energy on this situation with a full-time director that we're so narrow-minded that we're not doing other things we need to do. We're not addressing the COVID learning loss. We're not addressing the security issues we have. We're not addressing some of the new hires. It's like everybody's obsessed with this one thing. And I just think it's time to, I want to say, close the door in a way so that you'll be open again to realizing that we can help all of our students, but we have a lot of issues. And that if we can open up our minds to say, okay, we're going to shut the door right here and let's talk about our learning loss, which includes our African-American students. It includes, it's going to help the achievement gap. If we improve on our cyber program, of course, that's going to help our students that are in there that are suffering from the same equity gap, but it's going to help all the kids that are in there. But nobody's open to talking about all these other things because everybody's so obsessed and focused on this one job. And it's coming between, I'm talking about our school board, okay? Well, my opinion is that it's causing us to not function as well as we could and look at all areas. It's been something that we have spent a lot of time and energy on, to the point that when our administrators did interview and came to us and said, we can't find a candidate better than Dr. Chakey, and everybody in this room agreed to let Dr. Chakey continue to run the program. And then a couple weeks later, probably after some probing from community members, changed their mind again, and here we are again, okay? I mean, I don't know how to say it I'm trying to speak very, you all know me. I speak what I say. I'm very
So are
transparent.
we
with
rescinding, are
what
you
I
asking
say.
to rescind the resolution from the 19th of May, 2021?
This motion that I read.
It's just a yes or no.
Yes.
Yes, Robin.
That's
How
all I wanted.
more clear can I be? Yes.
That's all I wanted was a yes or no.
Yes.
I did not need extra, just a yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Or a no.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am.
But part of yours is to still to continue to search for support. The last part.
Yes.
Yes. And if you want to do a right to know request on my emails, I said I support a compromise, which Mr. Bova asked the board and asked Mrs. Delaney, and nobody answered that except for me.
I didn't understand when you said
Nobody
a
answered.
compromise. Can you explain what you meant by that? Because I
Well,
didn't get a chance to respond.
that was my suggestion, and I'd be happy to. And
that,
no, at the end of this meeting, you have an opportunity to speak. Thank you, sir. So I would suggest this. If back in May of 2021, instead of focusing specifically on a full-time director, a motion similar to the one we're considering now had been made, and one or two or three educators had been hired to augment what we're doing now, and basically do direct interventions with students, how many students could have been improved in the last year while the conversation about a full-time director continued? How many students might have been improved their lives, their performance, their success by having direct intervention over the course of the last year?
Okay, and when you say educator, you're saying hire more teachers, more social workers?
See,
I
this
didn't
is-
quite understand.
well-
As I said, I just want some
Yes, ma'am.
clarity.
I'm saying whatever works. So because we have these professionals and folks like you with lots of experience and a community to weigh in, teachers, maybe we should ask the teachers, what helps you get this job done? Instead of, this thing has been a top-down proposal since May.
And it shouldn't.
Ma'am, I couldn't agree more. It should not have been, but it was. And if something like this had been done last May, we would have had resources in place. Would one kid have done better? 10, 15, 20? I don't know the number, but I know it's more than zero. So for a year, not only did we not do that, Dr. Chakey got very little support from the people that were supposed to be participating in this equity committee. Now, maybe that was inadvertent, maybe that was an accident, I don't know, but I know that's what happened.
And when I look at it, I think, and I don't think anyone would disagree, I'm looking at the achievement gap that I know is not getting smaller. That is my major concern, the achievement gap. But the second thing I was looking at too is someone who can help and even address issues why our staff is not as diverse as our student body in the professional realm. I'm not saying in all positions, but I'm looking at several things there. Why? And maybe because of the achievement gap, we don't have more diversity within our AP classes, within our honors classes, within the other program. So I'm looking at a lot of things. I'm not looking at it from a black-white perspective, because we do have individuals who maybe have other socioeconomical differences that culturally or whatever have not allowed them to test into some area. So that's why I'm addressing that achievement gap. If that could be narrowed and closed, and I was looking at an individual with expertise along with our entire equity committee together, that they work on all these things. Unfortunately, we had to add the pandemic in there. That was not planned. And that takes away from us. You know, I just want to know how we're going to get to this next step. What are we going to do? Because as we speak, that gap is still increasing. So that's where I was with it.
And I appreciate that. And you and I have had a number of discussions about specifically, and for some reason, it's always the full-time equity director. So because everyone loves data, I asked you, show me a school that has, and you've mentioned a couple of them that have large departments with the full-time kind of equity director that you have been in favor of, and none of those schools have achievement that approaches ours. So, and I've given you like 5 opportunities to give me one. So if I missed one, I apologize, but most of them do not. So every point you've made is valid and worth considering and debating. The problem we have is it's been completely binary till now. If we don't support the pursuit of a full-time director, then we don't care about the achievement gap. Then we don't care about these kids that are getting left behind. I have a string of emails basically saying, if you don't buy into this particular solution,
I guess because people want change and they just don't see status quo of what we're doing changing anything. Students and
Ms.
of
Delaney,
different areas, they just have not
And when you
progressed
say
enough.
status quo, you know, I beg to differ because we provided evidence of the growth and the achievement that has been increasing over the last 7-8 years in this district.
But it's still wide. And because of that, it's going to get wider, not because of anything.
All right,
Not
then-
just because of what we're doing, but because of the pandemic.
The gap at Gateway is not getting wider. That is not a fair statement for you to make.
Well, I think it is, because we're just basing it on the fact that we know as a result of the learning loss from the pandemic. That's why I'm saying that's going to be a reason for it.
Pandemic, I would agree, the pandemic has caused a great deal of learning loss to all of our students, and it absolutely needs to be addressed.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So to say that the equity or the opportunity gap is increasing at Gateway is an inaccurate statement, not supported by
Well, the
data. If you
opportunity
take
gap-
away the COVID learning loss.
Yeah, that's also still other thing, the opportunity gap. Are the opportunities always lending themselves to various students? Whether, I mean, as I said, equity, diversity, it implies a lot, not just,
And
as I said, I'm not
let's make
taking
it
that
clear,
down a
we're not,
racial end.
we're not ceasing our equity program. This is not a motion to cease the program. It's not what this is. Let's not.
I would like to finish this part of our discussion with this. The reason I am in favor of bringing in educators, bringing in support for the people we have is pragmatic on some level. If indeed we were to hire a full-time equity director tonight, we'd have to find that person. We hire that person. From everything I've read, that person spends a substantial amount of time reviewing our practices. Where are we? How did we get here? What are the other options? That process could take 6 months, it could take a year, it could take a year and a half. Then they would be reporting back to us or whoever the board would be at that time, and then they'd be coming up with new strategies, all well and good and worth pursuing. But while that's happening, and while we don't have more boots on the ground, as Ms. McBride says, these kids we have right now are following another year, another 2 years behind. And somehow we've got to be able to, you know, keep both of these balls in the air at once. We've got to pursue these answers that you're asking about, but I'm advocating that we get bodies right now who want to be doing this work. And if they're educators, if they're social workers, if, you know, that's our
So you're
job.
still paying to hire more people, right?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you were asking me for the $115,000, do I want to spend that on a bureaucrat who's going to do the stuff I just described, or do I want to get educators in the classrooms in our halls right now? I'm saying I want Plan B, if those are the two options. All right, so does anyone have any more questions about this? Apparently not.
This meeting is being recorded.
So we have the motion, it's been made and seconded. Correct, Bonnie?
That's correct.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Please clarify which motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please clarify which motion we are talking about.
So we're voting on my motion to deny Susan's. So if you want Susan's motion, you would vote no. If you want to deny Susan's motion, you would vote yes.
But but there are two things happening here.
That's right.
One is your motion, and then you are also denying what has been passed in 2021.
It's together.
Yeah, but you packaged it together, but they are two different things to me.
No, her motion denies the 2021 motion.
Exactly, exactly.
That's right.
And Delaney's motion.
So he's saying there's two things.
Yes, so they have it packaged together.
Ms. Delaney's motion put a time limit on the 2021 motion. So that's how it's written. That is the motion that's being made.
So basically, a dispute is the 2021 motion.
Okay, yes.
Sort of.
I didn't expect that.
I'm sorry?
I didn't expect that. What we discussed was her motion last time and last Thursday meeting. That's what we
So
discussed.
your question
her
is
motion.
is it legal or proper to do that? Is that what you're asking?
No,
It is. It's part of Robert's Rules of Order. So when someone makes a motion, you can move a motion forward, which requires a second. If you don't want to second the motion, then you make a motion to deny. Okay, that's.
No, we're not doing this.
We're not. Go ahead.
So do you understand, Dr. Singh, or?
Yeah, I mean, to me, maybe it's Robert's rule approves it, but to me intuitively, we never raised this issue last week on Thursday that we will deny the 2021 motion.
You're right, we did not.
I have no idea.
That is true. I did not either.
And that was not on my plate at all.
Understood.
I mean, you can deny her resolution, but I don't think you can deny the resolution before. I mean, to me, that is.
That's what
It's
you're wrong
an
about.
indirect effect because her motion brought up the previous motion and she's pushing it forward by putting a timeline on it. So in its essence, it's the same motion.
Yes, you can do all that. What she's doing, you can consider to pass or deny. But I don't know if the 21 motion has been questioned. It was done before me, and I don't think it was our intent on Thursday to deny that motion. And that motion should continue. It doesn't have, you can talk about time limit.
So you would have the option to abstain if you would like. You could
You certainly
abstain
can
and
abstain.
not vote.
But just let's remember the language, what it says, that you will continue in your commitment to complete the hiring of a full-time equity director. And I think if you vote no to that, then you have said, because the rest of your motion talks about starting a new process, but you stopped the process of looking for a full-time equity director.
So we're not continuing, is what you're saying?
That's
simply what.
That's right.
And the second part of her.
My
wants
motion to
pursue
deny
it.
is because if your motion fails, then everybody's going to be unsure about what that means. Okay, because your motion puts a timeline on it and it's as committed to completing the hiring of the full-time equity director. So it's a little bit ambiguous on if your motion gets voted no, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that we're voting down the deadline? What does that mean we're voting down? So a motion to deny your entire motion just takes away the ambiguity of what a no vote on your motion would mean if that.
So you
So
want me to
we're
write
voting
another
to
resolution?
rescind May 19th, 2021. Did you hear that, Susan? We're voting to rescind the resolution that was made on the 19th of May, 2021. That is why I asked the question, yes or no.
Right, which is why I clarified with my motion to deny that it still is allowing administration to make new recommendations on growing our equity team and our program.
Basically, we can go all over again.
So are we directing them to make recommendations on
Motion right now is to deny Mrs. Delaney's motion.
And deny, please state that same time, and deny last year's resolution.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Understood.
I think the two things should be
Well, they're
Second
not,
agent.
so we
So I
actually,
appreciate that. I understand your reservation, and
yes, no.
next month we can introduce whatever resolution that you thought might be appropriate, but right now, this one's on the floor. If there are no more questions, we're gonna have a roll call. Yes, Bonnie?
I'm ready.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Singh.
I would no.
Dr.
I
Singh.
said no.
No. Okay, very good. Thank you. Mrs. Warning. Mrs. Warning.
Val, are you there?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. That your vote is yes. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney.
No.
Mrs. McBride.
Aye.
Ms. Mungo.
No.
Mr. Ritter.
John says aye. John says aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're going to move on to number 3, which is rescind resolution concerning the introduction of board resolutions by individual board members. Whereas individual Gateway School Board directors from time to time present and propose resolutions to be considered by the board at its study sessions or regular meeting, and whereas there is a desire of the Gateway School Board to provide notice and an opportunity to study the proposed resolution in advance by individual directors, now therefore be it resolved and enacted this 15th day of August 2017 as follows. Section 1, no resolution presented by an individual board member can be considered at study session or a regular meeting unless the entire board has received at least 7 days notice of such future presentation, and each board member is provided an actual copy of the resolution to be considered by the board at the next meeting. Section 2, this policy may be excused only when 2/3 of the majority of the school board shall vote to consider a resolution at its study session or regular meeting without such prior notice.
So moved.
Second.
That was made by Mr. Williams, seconded by Ms. Cerrucci, and Bruce, 30 seconds to explain why we needed to do that.
Well, there's a new statute that has come down and kind of clarified or made putting items on the agenda at the last minute, the last day, or the day of the meeting illegal. And so you kind of formalized this. This runs in tandem with that Act 65. So that's what I understand.
Thank you. Any more questions on that? Bonnie, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Warning.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Bova.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci. Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
Mrs. McBride.
Aye.
Ms. Mungo.
Not the obvious question.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
John says aye.
And Dr. Singh.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're going to move on to comments from residents on non-agenda items. Who do we have?
That's okay.
Now's your chance. Now's your chance.
What's happening?
I'm not mad at you, I'm just disappointed at you.
Please, your name, please.
JT Thomas, I'm Monroeville. You notice in this vote tonight here that the people that have been disenfranchised by this achievement gap for 40 or some 50 years all voted against the resolution that was proposed today. So you got the victims here saying, hey, this is what we want, but we got the people of power were saying that this is what's best. We know it's what's best. And I think that's kind of ironic. You think about it. And, you know, over this past years, I've sit here and I've seen the elements here that actually, I'm gonna say, imbue your beliefs, your practices, probably social and political activism, okay? And I've looked at those elements. I asked myself, what are those elements, okay? Those elements is really why I've had 6 kids here for the last 40 years in this school district. You know, out of 6 of them, none of them had a great experience as a Black person in this district. Great school, education. But you know what? I have a lot of other kids that I know and mentored, and very few of them have had great experience in the Gateway School District as Black students. Athletes I've mentored here, and it's sad. But now we have here an agenda or resolution that we know best how to fix that problem. And I'm telling you, you don't know how to fix the problem. Because see, there's a lot of problems with the COVID, there's a lot of problems with academics, but the real problem here is racism, okay? That's the issue. You guys want to address the problem, but until you address the issue here, which is racism, that is systemic, you never will resolve this issue. And how you have to do that is you have to be convicted that racism does exist here. Jack, you said last week, race is a difficult conversation for you to speak about. It is difficult.
Just to be clear, I was paraphrasing what was in the letter from our alumni. That's what she said.
Yeah.
And I specifically said that, just to be clear.
But from our exchanges this week in email, okay, I got an insight. It's difficult for you, okay? So basically, I think in terms of the real issue here, until we address racism in our system here, it does exist. And right now, we just are kicking the can down the road. That's what's happening here. This resolution, I think, is a big mistake, and you will find out you will not, because it's dysfunctional. This has nothing to do with you, doctor. No. Like I said last week, you can have a great athlete. I used the example last week. TJ Watts is a great athlete, highly paid. Nothing wrong with him. We like him. He cannot play quarterback. And we need a quarterback here. And the vote here obviously say, well, the people that really been disenfranchised, okay, what you say doesn't matter. It's what I think, what is best. Let me augment this situation. Let me put lipstick on the pig, and let's keep it rolling. Well,
30 seconds, Mr. Thomas.
thank you. And what I'm saying, until you address the real issue is racism here, and I know we don't like to think, we want to say we are colorblind, but see what binds you together in your decision and what blinds you about this situation is pure racism. And that doesn't mean you're a racist. I know what I'm saying, and I don't need you to correct me. I can tell you about what I'm saying. You can't. But racism is the issue here, okay?
15 seconds.
In this school board. And until you address that, it's been here, always has been here. And from day one, it permeates the school board. But like the fish doesn't know it's wet, you don't know you swimming in racism. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
But I still like you, though.
I still like you too.
You should. I'm a nice guy.
You are a nice guy.
I want to clarify what I said before. If I'm coming off as being a racist, it's because it's being shoved down our throat. I see reverse racism. You see one thing, I see another.
All right,
Okay,
excuse me,
yeah,
Mr.
let's have
Thomas.
this conversation.
She gets 3 minutes.
Okay?
That's how it works.
I don't know what your example is of racism in the Gateway School District.
All right. You direct your comments to
I'm
us.
sorry, I don't know
Mr. Thomas
what
had his
his
turn.
examples are of racism in the Gateway School District. Have we been told about it? I don't know. Okay, is it really going on? This is a false narrative. I truly believe this is a false narrative that is being pushed. Okay, prove it to us. Prove it to us. Okay?
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any more comments from residents? Nope. What's that? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone, and I mean that sincerely.